to obey my commands at all times. Give me a good, clean fight, and good luck to both of you. Shake hands.
We're set to begin round one of the IBF Middleweight Championship bout between champion James Toney and number one contender Mike McCallum. This has been eagerly anticipated by the spectators here at the Reno Sparks Convention Center. Both men coming out to the center of the ring. James Toney wading in with left jabs, seeming to take a page out of Mike McCallum's book and going for the body immediately with left jabs. Earlier in the week, I spoke with James Toney, and he said this fight means a lot to him. It's the one blemish, the one draw on his unbeaten record that he wants to erase. Mike McCallum throwing left jabs that go glancing off the gloves of James Toney. Most of McCallum's jabs thus far have been picked off by Toney. You'll notice Toney's stutter step followed by left jabs. This is designed intentionally to get in close to the body of Mike McCallum. Right now, and certainly round one, can be no judge of what will happen in the fight. Both men are tentative, however, James Toney's punches are much crisper. Both men weighing in an identical 158. Mike McCallum, 11 years older, and yet in very good condition. As you just noted, he landed 2 jabs to the right of James Toney's face. Through the course of the bout, watch that right of James Toney. It has done damage to Michael Nunn. It's anticipated that it could do damage to Michael McCallum. We're in round one of the IBF Middleweight Championship of the World between Mike Body Snatcher McCallum in the red trunks and James Toney in the gold trunks. Certainly no surprise, James Toney the aggressor in this early going. As we come to the end of round one here at the Reno Sparks Convention Center, James Toney seemingly having the upper hand in aggression. In James Toney's corner, of course, his manager, Jackie Callan, referred to as Mom because of her closeness to her fighters. And she becomes very involved both in the hype and intimidation of opponents. James Toney now backing McCallum into the ropes with a savage attack seconds into the second round of this IBF middleweight title fight. McCallum looking quite wary at this moment, and justifiably so. That right of Toney's is very crisp and it's very lethal. Toney jabbing with his left, looking for an opening with the right. McCallum lands glancing jabs off the forehead of James Toney. And I have to note in these early goings, James Toney's punches once again very crisp, very hard. If this does go 12 rounds, those punches could easily wear down Mike McCallum. Although not to discredit McCallum, he's tenacious in his own right and can last, as you saw by the replay of the bout last year. Another singing right by James Toney misses. There's an uppercut also missing. Certainly it may be noted that the three men in the ring this evening would be considered a barber's nightmare, and that left jab thrown by Toney was a nightmare for McCallum as well, as it caught him going backward.
Work out some more. With that shoulder, Mike. Work out of there. Come on, work out. Your hands are free. Come on, get him out.
As you watch this fight, study Mike McCallum. Watch how, as James Toney comes in, McCallum will brace his back leg so as not to give up room and yet take the blow. McCallum with a right to the kidneys of James Toney. We're coming to the 10-second mark of round number 2 in the IBF middleweight championship bout between James Lights Out Toney, the champion, and the number 1 contender, Mike McCallum. In the center of the ring, referee Joe Cortez brings the two fighters together as we begin round number 3 here at the Reno Sparks Convention Center in Reno, Nevada. This is for the IBF Middleweight Championship of the World. Toney in the gold trunks, McCallum in the red. As well as that strong and stinging right of James Toney, watch his uppercut as well. Quite a lethal tool for the young boxer. James Toney, 23 years old. Mike McCallum, 35. The combination of all their bouts, only one loss. That's Mike McCallum's loss to Saloum Kalambe, which he later avenged. James Toney noted earlier in the week that McCallum could go ahead and go for his body. That would leave his head open. Watch for James Toney to take advantage of McCallum's trade, which is snatching the body, working the body. There's that left lead by James Toney. Mike McCallum looking for an opening, finding none. Mike McCallum will move to the right to try to take the power away from James Toney's right. Pushes him away. Tries to work the body, gets two shots, one to the stomach, one to the kidneys of James Toney. Joe Cortez says, keep your gloves up. Feeling that the punches by McCallum might be a little too low. James Toney wades in with a couple of ineffective jabs. A couple of shots to the body of Mike McCallum. There's a great combination by James Toney. Mike McCallum scoring to the head of James Toney. McCallum will do that. He'll try to get James Toney off guard with combinations. There's that strong left jab of Toney's to the head of Mike McCallum. We're coming now to the end of round number 3 in this IBF Middleweight Championship bout. We're at the Reno Sparks Convention Center in Reno, Nevada. Round number 4 of the IBF Middleweight Championship. The champion, James Toney, in gold trunks. The number 1 challenger, Mike McCallum. Both men thus far have started off each round with a flurry of punches. Mike McCallum scoring. it might be noted earlier on that Mike McCallum would certainly, and there's a strong left to the face of McCallum from James Toney. Mike McCallum can certainly be looking to set up winning by points, because the stronger of the two, though both men weigh in at 158 pounds, is James Toney. You can hear his punches singing. A lot of strength in that 23 years. There's a left to the head of Toney from Mike McCallum. Mike McCallum able to score punches. Toney has been unable to score with the strength that he has, which is his right, which is a strong right, and the uppercut with the right hand. Combination to the body, picked off by the arms of Mike McCallum. Mike McCallum, though his nickname is the Body Snatcher, is also called the Professor because he has a very studious approach to his game of boxing. And it seems thus far in the bout that McCallum may have found a way to score on James Toney. Toney's punches, certainly the stronger of the two, but Toney is less effective now in getting those punches in, where Mike McCallum seems to be scoring more early on in this fight. Scheduled for 12 rounds, we're in round number 4 of the IBF Middleweight Championship bout. That left jab by Toney picked off by McCallum. Another shot to the kidneys by McCallum, another low punch. Some combinations by McCallum gets the spectators on their feet. There's a left shot to the chin in close by James Toney. A reminder, this is set for 12 rounds. It's the IBF Middleweight Championship bout. Toney once again trying with that left jab to set Mike McCallum off guard and coming over the top with his right hand. There is a lot of power in the punches of James Toney. However, he has been unable to land what he needs to land to take McCallum out of it. McCallum taking most of Toney's punches either off his gloves or off his arms. The combination by McCallum as he goes for the body. Toney flicks that jab out, that left jab. Joe Cortez calling time as Mike McCallum's mouthpiece comes out. James Toney goes into his neutral corner. James Toney taking something of an advantage of touching gloves as he comes quickly with a left jab that does not land. That right jab did land, however. Joe Cortez, referee, now tells him, touch gloves and come out boxing.
Get him out. Come on, let's go work out of that, guys.
That left by Toney got somewhat through Mike McCallum's guard, but it was part chin and part glove. There's a solid right to the chin of Mike McCallum from James Toney as he continues to come into Mike McCallum. McCallum seemingly unfazed, however, those punches have got to hurt. James Toney, 23 years old, Mike McCallum, 35. James Toney undefeated coming into tonight's bout with just one draw, and that draw was last year to Mike McCallum. Many consider the fight of the year. As you noticed, Mike McCallum threw some combinations, the left, right, and left his head open. That is what James Toney hopes to cash in on. Toney in the gold with black trim, Mike McCallum in red trunks. We're at the beginning of round number 6 at the Reno Sparks Convention Center in Reno, Nevada for the IBF Middleweight Championship. James Toney once again coming out as the aggressor. Mike McCallum not giving ground, but certainly taking some ground from James Toney, wanting him to come forward, wanting him to open himself up. That is how Mike McCallum has scored thus far. It is questionable whether Mike McCallum has the power, per se, to knock out James Toney. He certainly has the experience to outpoint James Toney, and thus far has done so. There is a strong right to the chin of Mike McCallum, but he recovers. Once again, a reminder, look for 2 punches. The overhand right by James Toney and the uppercut. Those are the 2 strengths in his stable of punches. In the past 3 rounds, we have seen very little of the uppercut of James Toney, as Mike McCallum has seemed to have found a way to defend it. McCallum staying very busy with his left jab, and thus far that has been what is scoring the most points for him. It may be that James Toney is wary of a knockout punch, and that he needn't be, but that wariness is opening himself up to being outpointed thus far by McCallum. McCallum in the red, James Toney in the gold with black trim. Exchange once again in McCallum's favor. Those punches by Toney were picked off of McCallum's gloves. He once again tries for that overhand right and misses. We're coming close to the halfway point of the 12-round IBF Middleweight Championship fight between James Lights Out Toney and Mike Body Snatcher McCallum. Both men showing their conditioning, as neither man thus far has shown signs of being weary. Some body shots by McCallum, and looking very close to being low blows. And we come to the end of round number 6 at the Reno Sparks Convention Center in Reno, Nevada. At the beginning of round number 7, Toney's in the gold trunks with black trim, McCallum in the red trunks. This is for the IBF Middleweight Championship, the belt that James Toney now holds and that Mike McCallum, the #1 contender, would very much like to go home with this evening. You just saw James Toney with that right trying to come across. Mike McCallum nearly ducking under it. There's a lot of power in James Toney. He has found no way to deliver it, however. A very elusive Mike McCallum. McCallum seemingly taking advantage of his 1-inch reach advantage. Once again, James Toney trying for that uppercut. Did not land. McCallum staying busy inside. Pushing Toney away. He wants a target to shoot at. saw a number of combinations by Toney, none of which landed. As we get ready for the halfway point of round number 7, thus far, I would have to say that Mike McCallum has succeeded in his plan of outpointing James Toney. He's certainly not throwing the stronger punches. He is throwing more punches, and more punches are landing. This IBF middleweight bout, it's a championship. It's set for 12 rounds. Toney certainly hoping to wear McCallum down. You'll see Toney get busier in the next 4 or 5 rounds. He has to. He appears to be behind on points. Once again, missing with the uppercut. Toney seemingly totally frustrated thus far in the fight. McCallum ties him up. Referee Joe Cortez is now taking Mike McCallum over to the corner. There's a piece of tape on the left glove, and they want to repair that. This is the second timeout of the bout thus far. Referee Joe Cortez motions to James Toney to go to a neutral corner. Fans now chanting Toney, Toney, as round number 7 comes to an end here at the Reno Sparks Convention Center. In round number 8, Toney comes out, once again the aggressor. He has to be. Thus far, it would seem he is losing on points. IBF middleweight champion James Toney in the gold trunks. Number 1 contender Mike McCallum in the red trunks. This is a rematch of what was called by many to be the fight of the year last year. You will not see many blatant errors. You will not see many mistakes by Mike McCallum. He's called a master boxer. He is called the professor. He studies the game. He works hard. He knows the game. And he will give nothing away to James Toney. Joe Cortez now warning Mike McCallum. And they are deducting a point from Mike McCallum. We'll have to take a look at that on instant replay a bit later on. Does not seem to be a justified point deduction, but nonetheless, Joe Cortez took a point away from Mike McCallum. Left hook by Toney glances off the jaw of Mike McCallum. That right shot also off the chin. There's another left. Neither one of them hard shots as Mike McCallum tries to come over the top. The combination by Toney, none of which lands. There's a left shot to the chin of McCallum that Toney landed. Less than a minute left in round number 8 of his IBF middleweight championship bout. James Toney casually turning his back on Mike McCallum, casually walking away as McCallum backs Toney into his own corner. McCallum showing a little wear now, a little fatigue. Once again, the tape, it comes loose on the right glove of Mike McCallum as Joe Cortez calls timeout and sends James Toney into a neutral corner. If you missed it, a point was deducted from Mike McCallum. It is questionable. Certainly, we hope that the fight does not come down to that 1 point. We'll have to take a look at it on replay a bit later on. Right now, both men come back to the center of the ring as we have 30 seconds left in round number 8 here in the Reno Sparks Convention Center. James Toney missing with jabs. He comes in and tries to score some body shots. Mike McCallum covering up, giving him nothing. There's a left that he flicks out off the chin of McCallum. McCallum scoring some body shots. That's why they call him the body snatcher. And we come to the end of round number 8. McCallum at 35 years old and a veteran and respected. That certainly deserved a point deduction. It's got to be disappointing to his trainer, Eddie Futch, a veteran himself. What this does is makes Mike McCallum have to come out fighting to get more points. Doing so, he is now leaving himself somewhat open to James Toney, who just landed a stinging right to the jaw of Mike McCallum. You'll see this continually. Mike McCallum feigning with the left and coming around with the right to the kidney. It's a combination to the body of James Toney. McCallum, much busier of the two fighters. There's another shot to the body. He covers up. James Toney tries to deliver blows to the body as well. Ineffective. We're in round number 9. Scheduled 12-round IBF middleweight championship fight. Referee Joe Cortez telling the men to separate and come out fighting.
Come on, get him out. Let's go. Come on, guys, get him out. Let's go. We're not playing. Come on, your hands are free. Yeah, get him out, guys.
If, in fact, Toney is hoping to absorb punches by McCallum and let the man wear himself out, he has 3 more rounds to do so. Less than that. Every move McCallum makes, calculated to score points. Joe Cortez telling Toney, do not press his head down. Not put your hands behind the head of Mike McCallum.
Get him out.
You'll hear Cortez say frequently, let's get him up. Let's get your arms up. Let's fight.
We got it in.
Mike McCallum now beginning to show some fatigue.
Let's go.
If so, that could play into the hands of James Toney. Does not seem to have lost much of his strength thus far in these 9 rounds. We have 10 seconds left in round number 9. The IBF middleweight championship bout here at the Reno Sparks Convention Center in Reno, Nevada. Three rounds left. Round 10, round 11, and round 12. Toney sitting in his corner, very pensive, almost expressionless. Comes out, misses with a left. McCallum lands with a right. Sports writer Steve Snedden saying the best I can say is it's a tactical fight. Indeed it is. And most of the tactics are coming from Mike McCallum, although James Toney just scored with a right. McCallum beginning to look a bit more vulnerable as he seems to tire somewhat. And that should be no surprise. He's been the busier of the two boxers. McCallum has to watch that he doesn't get too close in with James Toney. Toney has lost none of his strength thus far. Any punch that Toney lands now to the head of McCallum will definitely hurt. McCallum now backpedaling more than engaging. Being the tactician that he is, McCallum just might need this round as a rest. Just might feel that he is ahead on points, and he very well might be. He may want to rest this round and save himself for the final two. Trying to measure Toney. Has Toney up against the ropes. Comes with a right cross. Toney trying to cover up. McCallum, the busier of the two. One has to assume at this juncture of the fight that Toney is hoping to cover up and let McCallum expose himself. If Toney gets the right opening, he could land the one punch that he needs to put McCallum on the canvas. Toney is certainly not the busier of the two, although now he tries to get through to McCallum. Over against the ropes. Toney covers up. McCallum tries scoring to the body. Both men in the center of the ring. McCallum throwing shots to the body. That's why they call him the body snatcher.
Mike, get over there. All time.
Joe Cortez calling timeout for the 6th time in the bout. For the 2nd time, the mouthpiece of Mike McCallum has fallen out.
Let's go.
Cortez says, let's go. We are almost to the conclusion of round number 10. This is scheduled for 12. It's an IBF middleweight championship bout. The champion, James Toney, thus far has solved nothing in hoping to avenge the draw against McCallum last year.
Hey, watch the head, guys.
Hutch, knowing what just about everyone else knows, that McCallum is probably ahead on points. And if he can get this round, he should be able to win the match. 1 point was deducted by Joe Cortez when Mike McCallum held James Toney's head and then hit him from behind the back. It was an odd move. It was an immature move by a veteran boxer. It's a 12-round IBF middleweight championship bout. We're in round number 11. A lethal combination by James Toney. Only one punch landed ineffectively to the chin of Mike McCallum. McCallum pushing Toney away. He wants him out. He doesn't want him in close. Mike McCallum breathing more through his mouth now, showing some signs of fatigue, being the busier of the two boxers. Right uppercut by Toney that glanced off the gloves of Mike McCallum. Whatever Toney throws, McCallum has been very successful in ducking under or away from. That right by Toney did connect with the chin of Mike McCallum. Toney's trying combinations, they just don't seem to land. McCallum is not giving him much of a target. McCallum backpedaling now as Toney needs to be the aggressor, has to be the aggressor. There's a left shot to the chin of Mike McCallum. Half stagger step by McCallum. Those two punches landed by Toney as he ducks under McCallum. There's a crisp left shot by Toney. Joe Cortez telling McCallum to keep his punches up. Toney will cover up, and then when McCallum comes at him, he'll try that left shot to the chin of McCallum. McCallum's going to have to be careful of that. Thus far, Toney's been very ineffective with his uppercuts. More body shots by McCallum. There's an uppercut by Toney that misses. And we come to the end of round number 11. 1 round left. This is it. Round number 12 of an IBF middleweight championship bout. Both men coming to the center of the ring, touching gloves. James Toney, the IBF middleweight champion in gold, fronts with black trim. Mike McCallum in the red. Toney with a strong right. I would have to say that if anyone has strength left, it would be James Toney. And Mike McCallum knows that. He tries to tie him up. There's some shots to the body. No surprise. If Toney hasn't got Mike McCallum figured out now, he will not have him figured out for the remainder of this round. All he can hope for is an opening, one shot to knock out Mike McCallum. That is unlikely. How close is this fight? How much will the 1-point deduction by Joe Cortez to Mike McCallum count? We're less than 2 minutes from finding out. There's some jabs that score for Mike McCallum. One thing is certain, McCallum will not run. Both men do not show the fatigue that showed in round 12 of the first bout. Certainly there's befuddlement on the face of James Toney, and there's determination on the face of Mike McCallum. McCallum tries to tie up Toney. That works to his benefit if, in fact, he's ahead on points. McCallum just scored a left and a right to the chin of James Toney and then ties him up. Some tape is loose on the right glove of Mike McCallum. It's unlikely with 30 seconds left that Joe Cortez will stop the fight, however. It's been stopped 3 other times because of loose tape. We now have 20 seconds left in round 12 of the IBF middleweight championship bout between James Lights Out Toney and Mike Body Snatcher McCallum. There will be no lights out from James Toney tonight, and will McCallum be able to once again snatch a championship by successful shots to the body? And this is incredible. Cortez, with 4 seconds left, stops the bout, calls timeout to take care of the tape. Now says, come together. As we come to the end of the 12-round IBF middleweight championship bout, Mike McCallum with his arms in the air. James Toney looks very frustrated, pacing the ring like a frustrated boxer. He may well have reason for that.
Phil Newman scores the bout 114. 114, he has it even. Tom McDonough scores the bout 118 to 110. Doug Tucker has it 117 to 110 for the winner by majority decision, and still James Lights Out Toney.
You heard it. James Toney, a winner by a majority decision. This is a shocker. An 8-point difference has determined that James